Good morning. Welcome to this special programme on the day that the people of Britain bid their final farewell to Diana, Princess of Wales. Hundreds of thousands of people have spent the night camped out in London along the 2-mile route from Kensington Palace, where Diana's coffin has lain since yesterday evening, to Westminster Abbey, the setting for her funeral. Others are starting to line the roads and bridges on the 77-mile route to her burial place, the Spencer family home in Northamptonshire. All through the night, mourners have been streaming into London to be present at a gathering on a scale not seen since the end of the Second World War in 1945 and possibly never seen before. More than 1 million people are expected to crowd into the capital. Tens of millions more will be watching on television here and billions around the world. On this sombre day, the BBC will be bringing you live coverage as events unfold in the capital and around the country, and a week of extraordinary drama reaches its conclusion. Diana's final journey begins at 9:08 when, with her coffin on a gun carriage, the funeral procession leaves Kensington Palace for Westminster Abbey. An hour and 18 minutes later, it reaches St James's Palace, where it's joined by more than 500 representatives of charities the Princess supported. Her brother, Earl Spencer, and his family arrive at the Abbey at 10:35, to be joined 15 minutes later by the Queen and senior royals. The funeral procession is due to arrive at 11:05. The service itself begins at 11 and ends 45 minutes later. From Westminster, Diana's coffin will be driven through North London to the M1 and on to her burial at Althorpe, a journey expected to take 4 or 5 hours. Mourners have camped out overnight along the whole of the route to secure the best vantage point to view the funeral procession. Many have kept up a candlelit vigil throughout the night. Police have urged the public to avoid the areas around Westminster Abbey and Parliament Square, which are already full. But despite the crowds, police say there has been no trouble, and the mourners were notable for their respectful calm.
Burning through the cold darkness of the night, hundreds of candles provide a focus for the mourners waiting outside Kensington Palace, waiting for the hour when the body of Diana, Princess of Wales, will leave her home for the last time. 2 priests have watched over the coffin throughout the night. The sea of flowers has continued to grow, and for the people gathered here there's been little sleep. Instead, there's been time to reflect on the impact of the princess's death.
There's just like a stillness, it's so silent and it makes you feel really strange. I've never felt like this, I never thought it would affect me in such a way.
It's really amazing how you just look around and you see people of different races, and different ages, like different colours.
It's like trying to bridge this gap between everyone.
It's absolutely unbelievable what's shown by the people, and our hearts go out to the boys, and we hope someone puts their arms around them like their mum did.
On the roads leading to Westminster Abbey, people have been camping on the pavements to ensure their place along the route which the funeral procession will take. They've been warned to bring plenty of food, drink and warm clothing to see them through a long day. But most believe the discomfort is worth it.
It's very sad, very, very sad, and I'm just glad I came. I'd rather be here than anywhere else at the moment. This is the place I'd much rather be.
Others have found equally unusual places to spend the night. These people are making the most of the free accommodation offered on a train which is going nowhere. This particular train was named by Diana, Princess of Wales in 1988. It's called the Red Cross after one of her favourite charities. And staff here at Paddington Station felt rather than it sitting empty in a depot, it should be turned into a temporary hotel. The capital's stations will be key pressure points during the day. They are already busy with people arriving for the funeral, and the police estimate up to 6 million people will flood into London. The railway companies admit the scale of the demand has taken them by surprise.
We're astonished at the numbers because we know that our special trains were completely sold out. One train that frankly didn't actually exist 48 hours ago, we just put it into the timetable, it's completely sold out. We've laid on extra trains, we rearranged our timetable so the trains get into Paddington much earlier.
At the moment, many are still making their way to London. This special train left Plymouth in the early hours, picking up passengers en route. They're people who are determined to make the journey so they can pay their respects to the people's princess. Alison Holt, BBC News.
As people come into London this morning, the police say traffic so far has been quiet. In the last few minutes, the RAC say the roads are surprisingly clear. But the police have already closed dozens of roads around the funeral procession's route. Roads leading into Westminster and Whitehall had to be shut 3 hours earlier than expected because of the number of people camped there. Scotland Yard are now asking the public to avoid Parliament Square and Whitehall. They suggest that people go to other parts of the route. Motorways into the capital are also quiet at the moment. And for the latest on the travel situation, we go over to BBC Greater London Radio Studio at Scotland Yard. Sally Bozeman is our travel reporter. Sally, what's the position from your central vantage point?
Well, as you said, Martin, it's surprisingly clear at the moment. Most main routes coming into London are running really very well indeed. But obviously worth bearing in mind if you are planning to come into London via car, parking restrictions are very strictly enforced today. The police will have no hesitation in towing people away very quickly. So the best advice that we can give is to say, come as near to the capital as you can, to where you can park legally, and from there get public transport into the centre. Now there are about 6 underground stations around the Westminster Abbey area that are very useful. You can go to Green Park, St James Park, Victoria, the Embankment, Hyde Park Corner or Charing Cross. All of those underground stations are within walking distance of the Abbey and very, very accessible. If you are coming into town and you want to use a car park, Battersea Park have allocated 2,000 spaces there to park and then to come in by public transport. And also out at Docklands Light Railway, the Royal Victoria Dock, they've allocated 1,000 spaces there on a sort of park and ride basis, again to access London. So those are the best advice I can give you, is to park, get on public transport, and that will be by far the easiest way to access central London.
Sally, is there any sense in which the police may have overestimated the number of people who are actually heading for central London, and that in fact the crowds may not be quite as big as expected?
Well, I think they, as we all, are it's all new territory for us. No one really is sure. There have been various estimates bandied about throughout the week, but it's very unknown territory. We will watch the situation very closely. It could be that later on this morning the traffic really starts to build up. But as I say, they are urging most people to come in where possible by public transport.
Sally, thank you very much indeed. And the build-up of mourners arriving in London by car, coach and train is well underway. Our correspondent George Eakin is at King's Cross Station. George, is the pattern the same on rail as we are seeing on the roads? Are there in fact not quite as many people arriving by train as had been expected?
Well, it's difficult to tell, Martin, because the main rush of arrivals by train will come slightly later, around 7:30, between 7:30 and 9, I would say. There have been special trains arriving here during the night at King's Cross from Peterborough, Cambridge, that sort of direction, and one special train from Leeds arrived at 3 o'clock in the morning, which was jammed, according to a spokesman here. Later on, a regular service from Leeds comes in, and then slightly later, around about sort of 8:45, we start seeing special trains arriving from the likes of Edinburgh, a train there which left at 4 in the morning, said to be very full. And in the meantime, trains coming in all the time, every 10 or 15 minutes, with extra stock added, so that although there aren't many extra services, the trains themselves can carry more passengers.
George, thank you very much. And after the funeral at Westminster, Diana's coffin will be taken through North London to join the M1 at Brent Cross. Our reporter Jane Peel is there. Jane, what's the position from your vantage point?
Well, this is normally one of the busiest shopping areas in London on a Saturday, and all commercial activity will be coming to a close this morning in respect for Diana, Princess of Wales. Her coffin will come along these roads behind me, the A41, then the North Circular Road, passing out under the underpass towards junction 1 of the M1 and away, leaving London for the last time on her final journey to Althorpe. At the moment, traffic is indeed very light. The police say that it's normal for a Saturday morning. What they're concerned about really is not what's happening now, but what might happen on the M1 later on. They've got no idea how many people will turn out on the bridges or along the embankments to watch the cortege pass, or indeed what will happen to the traffic on the motorway coming southbound, and whether they'll stop against all advice.
Here at Brent Cross, there are very few people around at the moment. I think what will happen is that people will gather on these bridges to watch the cortege later on, perhaps after watching the funeral service on the television. But there are many people from this area who've already been on their way to central London. I was staying at a hotel nearby, and at 5 o'clock this morning I met two young men from Arizona who were here for a basketball tournament this weekend, who said that they felt they just had to go into town to mark this historic and very sad event. And there are many people here who are doing that and who are planning to try to come out this way later on today to see the cortege on its final journey.
And Jane, do you think it's possible that so many people may have been put off by the reports of up to 6 million people heading for the centre of London, that some people have decided not to make the journey but stay home and watch it on television?
I think that's quite possible. We've been hearing all week that many millions of people will be coming. The Metropolitan Police Commissioner said he thought many millions would be coming. We saw the television pictures obviously last night in central London of thousands and thousands of people lining the Mall and all areas in central London. And I think many people will think, well, we're probably going to see more of it on television if we stay at home and watch the service. Obviously we won't get the atmosphere and be there to pay our respects, but I think we may see fewer people at least travelling into London from outside than perhaps had been anticipated.
Jane, thank you very much indeed. And as we heard from George, many extra rail and coach services have been laid on to bring people from around the country to London for the funeral. Many of them have still to arrive. Liz McKean joined mourners on the train from Glasgow, which has arrived. It arrived during the night.
21:38 Great Eastern Railway service to London King's Cross.
Waiting for one of the final trains into London, a last chance for people from the furthest reaches of Britain to journey to the capital. Many have no idea where they'll go when they arrive. They simply want to be there. The O'Neill family joined the train at Glasgow. This will be their first ever trip to London, and they have very personal reasons for coming.
I actually met her twice before. I met her in Childline, and we met her when she visited Easter House in the 80s. My husband actually met her then, and my daughter presented her a bouquet of flowers.
She's coming from Kensington Palace now, tonight.
Yeah.
So she comes along there, and then where?
This group is coming from Newcastle. They met up on the train and have decided to stick together for their time in London. They said they couldn't bear to watch the TV at home. They wanted to be part of a crowd, to share a moment they'll never forget.
She was somebody I'd always admired and respected. And after seeing all the coverage and everything, we just decided 2 hours ago to ring up and see if we could catch a train and just come to London and pay it in person.
The people with AIDS, I think, really brought it home to myself. And I think the landmines more recently has brought it home to a lot of people. She's just done so much for others.
A few moments of snatched sleep. The rest of the night will be spent on the streets. Given the week-long mood of mourning, it's perhaps surprising how many people decided to make this journey right at the last moment. Many of them dropped everything to come. Dirty dishes left in the sink, arrangements hastily cancelled, phone calls not returned.
It's Buckingham Palace. That's where the Queen stays.
They may not have invitations, but everyone feels included. Also on the train, Diana's one-time dancing partner and friend, who'll be present at her funeral.
It'll be pretty bad, especially when they start playing that music. I shall just probably fall apart, because I know some bits of music that she loved as well, and that'll just do me in, basically. Which particular bits? And well, the Verdi Requiem Mass. I mean, it's so sad.
Those that didn't know Diana feel her loss too. They've been surprised by their own reactions, and that's why they're here, to try to square up to the emptiness she's left behind.
I sort of don't realise what somebody's like until they've gone, and I just wanted to sort of make my mark, as it were, and just be there, you know, make the effort.
Journey's end, they arrive and head off to find their place in the crowd. Another day, one that will surely be the saddest and most extraordinary of all. Liz McKean, BBC News, King's Cross Station.
Well, police advised earlier that one of the best vantage points to view the funeral procession was Hyde Park, and our reporter Fiona Bruce is there. Fiona, what's the scene at Hyde Park now?
Well, there's probably about 300 or 400 people here. You can't see all of them behind me because people are camped out here because there's one stage on this side and then people are actually camped out over there as well. It's difficult to say how many people are going to turn up here. So, and most of these people were camped out all night because they're so anxious to get their pitch to make sure they could see the screens. I suspect more people, a lot more people are going to turn up later on, nearer 8:30, but I suppose if people are wondering whether or not there's going to be room to come, there may still be. I was talking to people behind me about just to find out where they'd come from. Some people have come as far as Durham. I was talking to a mother who'd come with two very young daughters, and they're pretty cold and pretty damp, as everyone is here. But the feeling here seems to be everyone is determined to be part of a moment in history, really. They decided to come here rather than go along the funeral route because they were worried about the crush. There's quite a few young children here and they were worried it would be dangerous for the children. Everyone's determined to be, as I say, part of a moment in history, and also to try and share some of the feeling of the day with other people rather than just stay at home and watch it on the television.
And of course, from Hyde Park you do have the opportunity to view the funeral cortege twice.
Well, that's right, because it's going to go along the side of the park here. I mean, there's a concern from the police here that people are going to rush over to try and see the cortege. I think people are probably going to be fairly sensible, actually. I mean, most people have got their pitch, and I think they're pretty determined to stay where they are to make sure that they're actually going to see it on the screen. I think people are worried that if they rush over to see the cortege, they might then get there and not be able to get back, and they in fact won't see very much at all. So I suspect there won't be that much movement here, and people are going to stay put so they get the best view possible.
Fiona, thank you very much indeed. And Kate Adie is at Buckingham Palace now. Kate, the scene there.
It's quite a busy scene this morning. About half an hour ago, really, when we got the first light, there were still lots of people curled up in their sleeping bags and just getting up. But now, pretty well everybody is claiming their place. And along the actual line, the side of the route, there's a hefty crowd. And lots of people walking in, a lot of people from the police, there are St John ambulances, people, and then a lot of people just walking in very purposefully to come to what it will be, I think, one of the most heavily crowded places. And what they're doing now that there's enough light is to go around and see if they can just leave their place, some of the messages and some of the flowers. Flowers are still coming in. It's quite extraordinary. An enormous number of people with bunches of flowers in their hands this morning.
So, Kate, briefly, there are still last-minute opportunities for people who want to come in and play their part in viewing the procession.
There are, and I think what we are safe to say, that one must never predict, that this is a very polite, orderly, well-behaved crowd of people here very seriously.
Thank you very much indeed. For the moment, we'll be back in 10 minutes, but first, news of how the funeral of Diana, Princess of Wales, is being observed where you live. To find out what weather we can expect during the funeral day, across to Helen Young in our weather studio.
Good morning. Well, we have got a weather front in the far northwest this morning. That's going to gradually push rain southeastwards, although as you can see it doesn't reach the southeast of England until this evening, so it will be a dry day down in southeast England. At the moment, that wet weather pushing its way across Scotland then, some strong winds accompanying that as well from the west, and those winds will stay quite strong in the northwest throughout the whole day and through this evening as well. That rain then, quite heavy at the moment in some parts of western Scotland, gradually working its way eastwards then, but for the south starting off very sunny indeed, although the cloud will develop there as we go through the morning. By midday, the first signs of the rain getting into the northwest of England then, fairly light and patchy, but still some heavy bursts as well, particularly over the higher ground. By this afternoon, the cloud will be increasing in the southeast, but still generally dry and bright in southernmost counties. Temperatures this afternoon up to around 20 to 21 degrees, further northwest around 16 to 17. So let's look at the details now then for the whole of southeast England. Starting off very sunny this morning. It has been a fairly chilly night though. Temperatures at the moment are around 12 degrees. As we go through to midday, the cloud will be developing a little bit. Temperatures getting up to 19, and then the cloud increasing from the northwest as we go through to this afternoon. The first signs of some spots of rain perhaps through Oxfordshire, but further south of that it will stay dry. Well, for tonight, that cloud and patchy rain continuing to sink its way southeastwards. Still some rain as well coming into the far northwest. Elsewhere, a cloudy night, Fairly misty night, particularly in western areas around the coast and over the hills, with temperatures ending up around 11 to 14, so quite a mild night. As we go through Saturday then, that weather system pushes away down into the southeast. By Sunday you can see we've got that weather front in the far northwest. Also some very strong winds accompanying that. So on Sunday morning, windy and wet in the northwest of Scotland. Elsewhere fairly cloudy, but some brightness coming through as well. Temperatures ending up by the end of the day around 21 degrees. That's it from me. A very peaceful day to you.